morning, everyone. My name is Dawid Ostręga, like Richard mentioned. I'm going to talk about inspiration today. I'm going to talk about what inspires me. So let's start off with a little story. Most TEDx's start with imagine. Imagine this or imagine that. So I'm going to do the same thing, I suppose. Imagine. 8 years old, 9 years old, in a foreign country, in a school, in a primary school, being the only person in the entire school that doesn't speak English. Nobody in the school speaks your language. There are no special lessons to teach you English as a second language. That was me. That was me when I was younger. I was 8 years old. I moved to England, and I went straight into school. Basically, first day of school, welcome, go straight to normal classes. Maths was okay, because it's a universal language. But geography, yeah, I can kind of recognize a map. The rest was a little more difficult. And as you can imagine, kids can be very, very mean. And paranoia sets in a little bit. So what I ended up experiencing is a situation where I was the only person that didn't know what was going on. So whenever somebody was doing something, I was presuming that they were talking about me. So I see two kids talking, having a conversation, having a look at me, back to themselves, laughing. I presume they're laughing at me. Because I was so lonely, because I couldn't speak to anybody, I thought, okay, well, they're talking about me, they're making fun of me, let's go and sort it out. Right. And unfortunately, these two things were in far too much operation than they should have been. I got into fights almost every single day at school, which was a bad thing, very bad thing. But that was my only solution. I suppose I was lucky that I was a little bit bigger than most kids, so I thought, okay, well, this is my thing, this is the way I'm going to do things. And yet again, yet another fight, this time outside the school gates, because I'm feeling lonely, I'm thinking that people are laughing at me again, I'm feeling paranoid. And something different happened. One of the teachers came out, he happened to be going home. It's a teacher that I only saw once before in the school. He was what's called in England, it's called a supply teacher. So it was a teacher that just came in for literally a couple of weeks, just as a replacement for somebody else that was either sick or away or whatever. And he literally grabbed me. He broke up the fight. He was on his way home, grabbed me and said, right, walk with me. And this is what happened. This is how I remember it. I remember a tall Canadian talking to me and explaining to me why fighting is a bad thing, why I shouldn't be fighting, that these kids are not all laughing at me, and even if they are, so what? But definitely using your fists is not the way to bring friendships and to be accepted by others and to become part of the school community. Now keep in mind, this Canadian teacher did all of this, explained all of this to me without me speaking a word of English. I didn't understand a word he said, but I knew exactly what message he was telling me, exactly what he wanted to say, and I remember it to this day, whatever it is, 35 years later. And this, whenever I picture the scene, this is exactly how I picture it, this picture. I remember looking up at this teacher. I never saw him again in the school. He never taught me, he was never in any of my lessons, but that one single incident changed my life. And this is what I wanted to impart on you as one of the ideas today, that a single incident can make a difference in someone's life. A single conversation can really change the way somebody handles their lives, is in need at a particular moment. I really needed, at that particular moment, for somebody to say, it's okay, you're not the only person in this world, I know you're lonely, but it's going to be okay, you're going to learn English, you're going to eventually integrate. He did all of this just by simply taking those 5 minutes out. He didn't have to. So this is something I would really love if any of you could do. Whenever you have an opportunity with a single incident to inspire somebody, take that opportunity. So now we move on to, I suppose, who I am. Little collage. I'm ordinary. And this is something that I want you to... I hate being ordinary, and I always try to do everything not to be ordinary, but the fact is I am. I'm just like any of you. And the reason I'm saying this is I want you to... I'm a scout leader, I'm a sports coach, American football coach, I'm a CEO of a company, and I'm a biker. The reason why I'm saying this is because very often I've gone to conferences and I've listened to people that are trying to give inspiring talks, and I thought, wow, there's no way I can be like that. I mean, this person on one leg has managed to go up Mount Everest and then ski down. You know, I can't do that. They've battled cancer, they've beaten cancer. I don't have cancer. How can I relate? Okay, you know, it's too much. You know, so don't look at me as somebody different. Don't look at me as somebody that's better in some way. No, I'm just like any of you. And whatever I've done in my life, whatever inspiration I've been to others, every single one of us can do that. Every single one of us has somebody in their lives that looks up to us, that wants to be like us, whether it's a kid, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a friend, somebody always. And take that responsibility and use it, because it's very important. How has that one incident in my life when I was very young shaped my life? It has. And when I look at these pictures, the way I conduct myself every day goes back to that moment. Because in that moment when that teacher took me aside, he didn't speak to the whole group, he didn't speak to everybody, said, no, he just took me aside and talked to me. I remember to this day exactly which street we walked down when he was talking to me. I realized that in life we are individuals. And this is what has driven me always in life. When I'm a scout leader, as you can see in that picture, yes, I should be looking at my entire scout troop, but I never forget that each kid is an individual. Each kid sometimes needs their own time, and I need to speak to them and treat them as an individual. As a coach, American football is the ultimate team sport. I have 53 players on our team that all have to work together, but each of them is an individual. Each of them needs to be spoken to differently. Some need literally to have their arms around them like that, because they're huge, and for me to speak to them. Some of them need slightly firmer words to inspire them. Others just need to be just guided. But they're all individuals, and that's what shaped me. And in business, and that's the bottom picture, I'm a CEO of SKK, everybody's an individual. I spent some time in a big corporation where everybody was just a number on an Excel spreadsheet, and I couldn't handle that. That's just not me. In my current company, I try and look at every single person as an individual, their contribution, not just to the company, not just to the profit of the company, but to the life and the community of the company, because that's important. And I suppose I'm a biker just to show you that I'm an ordinary person. I get on my bike and I have some fun too. So I want you to think about the fact that we are all individuals, and whenever you can inspire somebody, take that time to inspire somebody, because it's very, very important. So that's one concept I wanted to introduce you today, that a single incident can shape somebody's life. So don't ever ignore it. The other concept is personal social responsibility. We've all heard about CSR, corporate social responsibility, companies either sponsoring or doing events and planting trees or sponsoring teams or whatever else. But that's the company. I want us to think about personal social responsibility. What do we do to make our community, our local community, better? Don't try and be Nelson Mandela, don't try and change the world. No, do try that, but don't think that you have to be Nelson Mandela and try and change the world. Or these great people that literally change the world. Change your local community, make your local community better. Why? Because you see the effects. It's a lot easier to see those small effects, those small smiles on children's faces than to try and change the world. And this is what happened to me. When I first became scout leader, I was very, very young. I was 14 years old. And the guy who was my mentor, he did that. He truly showed me what it means to do personal social responsibility. He spent 8 years mentoring and coaching me and teaching me. And this is a picture of Olgert, who is that person, who showed me that, yes, a single incident can change your life, but also you need to support somebody and really invest their time. This is a guy who spent 8 years throughout my tenure as a scout troop leader. He was always there, but what was incredible, he was there just as a support. I never felt overwhelmed. I never felt like he was telling me what to do. He simply assisted me in spending that time with the troop and giving my time. So this is something I want each of you to consider. Your personal social responsibility is something that we should all strive to do. He was an inspiration, and whenever I had a tough time, whenever I was lacking motivation, I always knew that he was going to be there. And the same thing I'm doing right now. I'm a head coach of the Kraków Kings. And whenever I have a tough moment, whenever I think, I don't want to go to practice, I don't want to prepare for practice or this, I think about the time that he spent, the fact that I always knew that Olgert was there to support me, for when I was a scout troop leader, and I try and be that support for my entire team. For all the coaches that are giving their time at the Kings, and for all the players and everybody that's there, for the support staff, that I'm there for them at any point, because it's very, very important. Because I think inspiration is something that we all need. A lot of us try and pretend that we're tougher, that we don't need it, but we do. Every single one of us needs either that one single incident that will change your life or sustained support in PSR. Let's make the world a better place and try and each of us install some kind of personal social responsibility, because it's very important. The last one I'm going to show you is this picture. I'm going to actually leave this picture for a while because it's one of the most powerful pictures that I've seen. This is a real picture of the Kraków Kings, real players. This is the team that plays here locally. Tomorrow we're actually going up to Gliwice to play a game, and then next week we'll be back in Kraków. So come to a game. But what's important here is the fact that this is one of the players inspiring another player, talking to another player who's having a tough time. Nobody told him to do that. You don't need to see the words in this picture. You don't need to see the conversation. You know exactly what's happening here. This is a guy that sees that one of his teammates needs him and is supporting him. And when I look at this picture, to me, this is just incredible pride, because I've been able to build an organization, build a structure where people feel that they can do that and they should do that. Because one person cannot run an entire organization or an entire football team or a scout troop. It needs to be a collaboration of everybody, and this is it. I'll tell you a little story here. One of our players, because this picture reminds me of that story, last year one of our players, who's a wide receiver who catches balls during a game, and that's his main job, to catch balls. When he drops the ball, and obviously it's a bad thing, everybody sees it. In practice, he's brilliant, outstanding. In games, sometimes if he drops that first pass, after that, he has a tough time mentally getting back into a game. And he's very talented, he was having a tough time getting into games. And one of our senior players, just like this, came to me before a game and said, listen, can I speak to Dalek? Can I have 5 minutes with him? I said, yeah, sure. Now, I said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to try and inspire him. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, I've tried everything with this kid. I've tried various things and it hasn't worked. Well, maybe he can do that. And he took him to the practice field and just threw him some balls. And he caught every single ball, because it's not a practice field. And then he took him to the side and said, listen, see how you caught everything? It's just practice, right? It's just easy. He goes, yeah. Now let's just go and do that on that field over there. It's just a different location. It's just 100 yards in a different direction. But you know you can do this. Let's just go and do it over there. Greatest game he had. The best game, one of the best games in history of Kraków American football. Outstanding game. Just because one of his friends inspired him. His peers inspired him. Just through that 5 minutes that he spent. Maybe that one single incident will change. Since then, his career has gone on an upward trajectory. He just needed that one single incident. And to me, that was incredibly inspiring that one of our players was able to do that. So take that time and really try and help others whenever you can. I've got a couple of notes here that are important, because when I first met Richard, he said to me, there are 3 things that TED and TEDx is all about, and I want you to try and reference those. So be an inspiration, obviously. So the first one is, why is the idea important to you? Why is this idea important to you? It's very important to me because it made a difference in my life. Somebody once took the time, even though it was only 5 minutes, but he took the time to try and help me. And then Olgert showed me that you can make a big difference in people's lives. Somebody took that time, so that's why I'm here, because I want to take that time to try and inspire somebody else to be an inspiration. The other one is, why should the audience care? Okay? Because we shouldn't miss an opportunity to educate. Every single moment that we can, take that opportunity and let's make the world a better place. One single incident could have a huge impact. If that Canadian teacher has done nothing else in his career, he has changed my life. And I believe that's enough. He changed my life, he made my life for the better, he helped me in what was the toughest time in my life, just through that one incident. So if each of you, imagine there's 400 people here, each of you just has one incident, will potentially change 400 other lives. And that's huge. We will change the world. Okay? Personal social responsibility. You don't have to take on a huge project. You don't have to take on an entire team. You don't have to take on an entire company. Something smaller. Maybe it's your local preschool. Maybe it's the garden in front of the block of flats that you live in. Something that will change the world locally, because it's very important. What should you do about it? That's the last question in TEDx. What should the audience do about my talk. Go out there and be an inspiration. Try and change somebody's life, because we can. We really can, and that one single incident can make a difference, and hopefully it will lead you to PSR, personal social responsibility, and hopefully that will become just a normal thing, that we all try and help the world, and it'll be a better place to live. I'll leave you at the very end with a quote, something that I live by. Doing something yourself is easy. Winning a game, winning a championship yourself is easy. I've won championships as a player, great. But what gave me real pleasure is winning a championship as a coach. Winning a championship, teaching somebody else, the next scout leader, to have the best scout troop in the world. Because that's what the guy that I taught took over the troop from me, his troop became the best troop in the world. That is a true meaning of success to me. So doing it yourself is easy. Inspiring others is the ultimate success. So I wish that all of you could do that. Be an inspiration, because it's the ultimate success. Thank you for your time.